Hello students, good afternoon. This is Professor Henderson, and today we are going to be discussing the chapter on skin integrity and wound care. So let's look at some of the chapter learning objective. Upon completion of this chapter, the student will be able to demonstrate the following concept. Discuss function of the skin. Identify risk factors that contribute to pressure injuries. Discuss various staging of pressure ulcers. Discuss wound healing by primary and secondary intention. Describe the complications associated with pressure injuries. Explain factors that promote wound healing. List 4 nursing interventions to prevent skin breakdown. Explain the Braden scale tool and factors that it identified. Discussion of case study and concept map on pressure injuries. So as we know, there are different layers of the skin. So the epidermis. The epidermis is the top layer of the skin. The epidermis consists of several layers that consist of keratinized cells. So, for example, the epidermis consists of the stratum corneum, stratum luteum, stratum granuloseum, stratum spinosum, melanocyte, and stratum basale. So these are different layers of the epidermis. So the dermis is considered the inner layer of the skin, and the dermis consists of connective tissue and collagen. In the dermis, you have numerous nerve endings that are present. The dermal epidermal junction separates the dermis from the epidermis. So what are some important function of the skin? So as we know, the skin acts as a protective barrier against microorganisms. The skin also is a sensory organ for pain and temperature. The skin also is a thermoregulation. So those are some simple function of the skin. So let's look at some risk factors that are associated with impaired skin integrity. So poor nutrition is an important factor. So poor PO intake, if a person has below body mass index or below ideal body weight, or they're losing weight more than 5 or 10 pounds, and their albumin level is below 4, they are considered at high risk for pressure injuries due secondary to their poor PO intake and their nutritional status. Immobility is another risk factor that is associated with pressure injuries. So for examples, you have patients that are bed-bound, patients that are not getting out of bed, patients that are quadriplegic, that are confined to bed. You have patients with CVA, cerebrovascular accident, or patients with spinal cord injuries. These patients are increased risk for pressure injuries, and therefore we should implement turning and positioning every 2 hours for them. Let's look at diabetic patients. Diabetic patients have decreased perception of sensory. They also have decreased perfusion to a specific organ. Their inability to feel pain secondary to diabetic neuropathy. So therefore, they are increased risk for pressure injuries. We have patients that are incontinent of bowel and bladder. So patients that wears a diaper needs to be keep clean and dry. You need to reposition them every 2 hours, also use different barriers to prevent skin breakdown, such as A&D, such as Desitin, such as butt paste. Patients that are unconscious also, that have decreased level of consciousness, they also are considered high risk for pressure injuries. Activity that cause pressure, such as the shearing force. Patients that are sliding down from bed or a chair, do not pull them. Lift them using a draw sheet to prevent shearing force. This is a braiding scale tool that nurses use to evaluate patients that are considered high risk for pressure injuries. So the braiding scale tool assesses several risk factors. For example, the patient's sensory perception, their ability to respond to meaningful pressure related to discomfort. Patients that are moisture, the degree to which the skin is exposed to moisture. It also evaluates the activity, the degree of physical activity, their mobility status, the ability to change and control body position. Also evaluates their nutritional status, and such as their NPO, such as IV, such as total parenteral nutrition, and also evaluates the friction and the shearing force. So these are all considered high risk factors that are associated with pressure injuries. So with the braiding scale, the nurse uses a scoring. So it's from 1 to 4. Let's say in sensory perception, if the patient is completely limited or unresponsive, they will score a 1. Let's look at moisture. If the patient is constantly moist or often moist, skin is often but not always moist, they will score a 2. Activity. If the patient is bedfast or confined to bed, they will score a 1. The mobility. If the patient is very limited mobility, they will score a 2. The nutritional intake. If the patient is have very poor nutritional intake, they will score a 1. And friction, if patient is requires moderate to maximum assistance in moving, they will score a 1. So a total score of 12 or less represents high incident for pressure injuries. So therefore, upon assessment, when the nurse uses the braiding scale to assess the patient, the risk factors, and if they score, let's say the patient score a 12 or the patient score a 10, at that time, the nurse should initiate preventive measures, such as turning and positioning the patient, such as using barriers to prevent skin breakdown, such as keeping them dry and clean, using a specialty air mattress, also evaluate their nutritional, their proalbumin levels, so on and so forth. So it's important to have a basic conceptual framework of the braiding scale tool that nurses use to assess patients that are considered high risk for pressure injuries. Scientific knowledge base. So pressure injuries, or back in the days, they used to call it pressure sores, decubitus ulcers, bed sores. So all these terms are used interchangeably, but now they call it pressure injuries. So pathogenesis, pressure intensity. So tissue ischemia. What is tissue ischemia? It's a prolonged pressure to an area that leads to ischemia. So what type of patients are at increase for tissue ischemia? Those who have decreased sensation, and cannot feel pain, as we talked about your patients with diabetic neuropathy. You have a little diagram here of a patient with a pressure ulcer. So this one would be considered unstageable because it has a necrosis here, and it has a lot of yellow sloughing. So in order to stage this pressure ulcer, it will have to be debrided. It's important that we get a surgical consult to debride the wound so we can actually assess it and stage it. I have a case study here with Mr. Omar Ahmad. Is a 76-year-old accountant, has come to the hospital again, this time for pneumonia. Before admission, he was unable to eat and lost more than 20 pounds over the last 2 months. 3 years ago, he had coronary artery bypass surgery. As a precaution, he is placed on a telemetry monitoring. He also has hypertension, type 2 diabetes mellitus. His mobility is limited because of weakness. So, looking at this case study, what are some of the risk factors that places Mr. Omar at high risk for pressure injury? So, off the bat, we can see he's considered high risk because he has lost 20 pounds. He also had diabetes. He also have hypertension, and he has limited mobility. So those are some risk factors that places him at increased risk for skin breakdown. So as a nurse, name 2 interventions that the nurse can implement to decrease his risk of developing pressure injuries. So as I said before, we will be using the braiding scale to assess Mr. Omar, and let's say Mr. Omar scored a 10 on the braiding scale. So the nurse will immediately implement a turning and positioning every 2 hours. Also passive range of motion. Also evaluate his nutritional status, get a nutritional consult, have the dietitian come in and evaluate his ideal body weight and assess his proalbumin level also and his electrolytes. So what diet do you think that Mr. Omar will be on to prevent skin breakdown? So he'd probably be on a high caloric diet. He probably will also have supplements of vitamins also. I have an NCLEX style question here, and it's a very simple NCLEX style question. An 86-year-old female patient is immobile and is in the right lateral recumbent position. As the nurse, you know that which sides below are the most risk for pressure injury in this position. Select all that applies. So have several choices here. You can read this. It's very simple. I have a concept map on pressure injury. So I wanted to create this simple concept map to give you a basic understanding how to formulate a nursing diagnosis. So impaired skin, we have a case study. Miss Jones is a 68-year-old patient who lives in a long-term care facility who developed stage 4 pressure injury to her left hip. Her past medical diagnosis: hypertension, osteoarthritis, COPD, and osteoporosis. So Mrs. Jones' vital signs are within normal limits. She's on oxygen, nasal cannula, and her O2 sat is 95. So nursing diagnosis: impaired skin integrity related to limited immobility, evidenced by pressure injury to left hip. Hyperemia noted upon inspection and palpation. Partial thickness partial thickness noted over left hip. Stage